What's up, everybody? Welcome to another very late edition of this show. You guys made it just in the nick of crime. Now, if you guys noticed, I did not do an episode on Friday. Remember that court, because of a juror on Wednesday, last week, wasn't in session. They dismissed court for the day because of a sick juror. Then it was Juneteenth. Then they had on Friday, and I didn't post on Friday. I didn't do anything on Friday, social media wise. And so did anything over the weekend. And then so today I owe you guys basically a double episode. But before we get into all of that stuff, I did try to condense it so y'all aren't going to be sitting here for like 2 hours to listen to it. It should be pretty quick. Should be hopefully about the normal time that we do these episodes. Now, all of that said, if you are coming here for the first time, make sure to hit that follow button, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, which TikTok, we are so close to that 10,000 mark. Please tap that screen and get us there. And same thing with YouTube, subscribe. It's free. It's a great way to help support my content. Yeah, let's get into the Diddy trial because there's been a lot that has happened that we need to talk about. And before I get into the updates from last week on Friday that we need to talk about with Brendan Paul testifying, let me just say that we should expect to hear closing arguments starting this week, possibly Thursday. It is very possible that we could have a verdict this week, although highly unlikely, probably the week after. But it is very possible that we will have a verdict this week. It's definitely a real possibility if they finish all the closing arguments up. The other big thing to let you guys know about on the front end is a lot of people have been asking, is Diddy going to testify? And if you guys have seen my short earlier or one of my other lives where I say, I doubt it. Well, now we know that that's 100% for sure he's not testifying. Solely for the fact that defense today decided to call or tell the judge that we're not going to be calling any witnesses. Originally, they had 3 that they wanted to call witnesses for the defense in defense of Diddy. And they decided to nix all 3 of those witnesses and decided they're going to focus on evidence instead. That is actually huge, huge news. That being said, let's get into it. So, again, just a reminder real quick, because I started writing this yesterday and then got in today. Before Friday's proceedings began in the federal trial of Diddy, there was already tension in the air because Wednesday had not gone as planned. A juror had called out sick, and the judge made a decision to adjourn court for the entire day. While the judge indicated he believed the juror's absence was likely limited to 1 day, the lost time created a ripple effect in the already tight schedule. From the beginning of the trial, Judge Submarani has been clear. He wants the trial to wrap up before July 4th, but with Wednesday wiped out and Thursday pre-scheduled as a day off, which was Juneteenth, the courtroom returned then on Friday, and it was only for a half-day session running from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's why I'm saying this is why this episode can still be about the same length, because court wasn't terribly long on Friday. So before testimony resumed, this is again going back last week, on Friday, the judge addressed an ongoing matter concerning one of the jurors. The defense team had submitted a request tied to a sealed issue involving a juror, but the judge denied the request. He did not publicly explain what the defense had asked for or why he was denying it. However, earlier filings have shown that juror number 7 has been under scrutiny due to alleged communications with a former colleague about their role on the jury. That issue had previously been handled under seal by both prosecution and defense, and now it appears the court has declined a new defense effort to take further action related to it, whatever action that might be. Now, when court got into session on Friday, it was on hold because, hold on, I lost my spot here, because not all jurors had arrived, but the plan was very clear for that day. Brendan Paul, a former assistant to Diddy, would be the next witness to take the stand. This was a guy that we were really looking forward to hear from. Brendan's name has surfaced before in connection with serious allegations. If you all remember, Brendan is the one who in March of 2024 was arrested at Opelika Airport with the white powdery sniffy stuff and the green leafy stuff in his luggage. And this was just moments before boarding a private jet with Diddy. He was arrested, taken into custody. The timing of his testimony suggests that prosecutors might be using Friday's shortened session to build a bridge between Diddy's inner circle and the broader themes of abuse, substances, and control, the same ones that have dominated basically this entire trial, right? Paul is expected to testify, or was expected to testify for the entire time, which he did, until the court adjourned at 1 p.m. with the timeline already tightening. Every minute carries weight, right? So once it resumed, Brendan Paul took the stand and began addressing the headline-making moment, which ended his employment with Sean Diddy Combs, which was that March 25th arrest in 2024 at the Opa-locka Airport in the Miami area. Paul testified that he began working for Combs in late 2022, shortly after finishing college. He described himself as a personal assistant, someone tasked with everything from scheduling to physical cleanup. His employment came to an abrupt end on the day he was arrested for substance possession while en route to a family vacation with Combs. According to Brendan Paul, the substances were found in his Goyard bag, which is, by the way, for those of y'all who don't know, most of my following is women, so most of y'all know what a Goyard bag is, but it's a luxury brand, but it's often used by assistants and staff in the entertainment world, apparently. So just y'all know, most of y'all know what it is, though. But he claimed that the substance the sniffy stuff wasn't his, and that the situation was a matter of forgetfulness tied to his job duties. It was in my Goyard bag for personal assistant duties. He explained that he had been sweeping Combs' room, presumably cleaning or gathering items before departure, and picked up the bag containing the substances to move it somewhere else. But in the rush of preparing for the trip, he claimed he simply forgot to take it out of his bag before they left the airport. Left for the airport. The prosecution has not yet revealed whether they believe Paul's story is truthful or whether they intend to use his arrest to suggest a deeper pattern of substance use and delegation within Combs' inner circle. Either way, though, the arrest remains one of the more concrete data points linking this illegal, substance possession to someone traveling closely with him, supposedly for Diddy, and is now a part of the official record under oath. Right now, Brendan Paul also told the jury that he first learned of an opening. Has how he got his job, by the way, with Sean Diddy Combs' staff through Ellie Maroon, a one-time aide to Sean Combs. Maroon did not sugarcoat the offer. He told me to get in, to get out. If you have a girlfriend, break up with her, and you're never going to see your family. He testified that he understood the message to mean it would be a really tumultuous job that required all of his attention. Let me say that again. He was told before he took the job, get in, get out. If you have a girlfriend, break up with her, and you're never going to see your family. Paul said he interviewed in the fall of 22 at Combs' LA home. Security took his ID. He signed a non-disclosure agreement at the door and then went to meet with KK, who is Christina Coram, by the way, who is Combs' former chief of staff. Most of y'all know that, but just in case. And then Frankie Santella, who was the music manager. He met them for about 20 minutes, and a few days later, he was on the payroll. In the first weeks, Paul worked out of the LA mansion, taking day-to-day direction from veteran assistants. He split responsibilities with them, handling travel logistics, packing, fitness gear, meal plans, and other music-related needs. One recurring chore, he said, was rolling and packing marijuana joints in Combs' garage so that they were already ready for him. Paul also told jurors that Combs wanted his assistants to operate with special forces precisions. He would say specifically, you should hit to his assistants, to his staff, you should operate like SEAL Team 6. The demands were relentless. Paul remembered working 80 to 100 hours a week, 4 to 6 days at a stretch, yet always on call, with a starting salary was $75,000, later bumped to $100,000, all paid by Combs' enterprise. Travel was constant. He flew on the private jet 3 or 4 times, but more often ahead of Combs. So when you walked in, everything was seamless and he had everything he needed. Stylist and photographer sometimes joined those advanced trips. The pressure brought flashes of temper. And in October or early November of 23, Paul forgot Combs' Lululemon fanny pack before a walk. According to Paul, Combs snapped, I don't want to see your face, instructing him to call KK and tell her you're fired. KK advised him to lay low. Soon after, she dispatched Paul to London to set up Combs' birthday hotel suite. And the incident was never mentioned again. Paul estimated Combs fired him 2 or 3 times overall. There was... he added no meaningful human resources channel. If problems arose, staff went straight to Combs or KK. To survive the workload, he testified that he took prescription Adderall and indulged in the rare use of the white sniffy stuff, plus, weed. The long stretch he worked without real sleep, he said, came during an album release week in New York, roughly 3 straight days awake, only broken by a couple of brief naps. He said he was young, so he was able to handle it. Paul's tenure ended again on March 25th, 2024. When Miami airport police found substances in his carry-on as the entourage set out on what Diddy was calling a family vacation. Under oath, he repeated the explanation he gave earlier in Friday's session. Sorry, this is getting into, I think this is going into next week. No, not yet. In the earlier session, he said, it was in my bag for personal duties. He said he'd been sweeping Combs' room, picking it up to stash it elsewhere, and he forgot it was in his own bag when they left for the airport. Paul invoked the 5th when he was first called to the stand, but outside the jury's presence, Judge Submarini signed an immunity order compelling his full testimony. As Brendan Paul continued his testimony, and this is going again, this is all on Friday, jurors heard one of the most explicit first-hand accounts yet of the events insiders once called Wild King Nights, hotel nights, or freak-offs. Paul testified that KK coined the phrase. He said that she really didn't want him involved in those nights, but he was still occasionally tasked with setting up and cleaning up for them. According to Brendan Paul, he was only personally witnessed of one of Combs's accusers, James, participate in these nights during his time with Diddy. When asked to describe what Wild King Nights actually entailed, Paul didn't hesitate. Partying, alcohol, sex, drugs. So he answered 4 words: partying, alcohol, sex, drugs. That's it. These nights typically took place at hotels, especially early on in his employment, but these changed in late 2023 after Cassie Ventura filed that bombshell lawsuit, which accused him of forced sex, repeated beatings, and years of control and coercion. And by the way, just so y'all who are listening who don't understand, like, why don't I say the word? Because it gets suppressed on a lot of social media. So that's why we don't say it. It's not like I'm trying to minimize what he did. What he did was horrible. Repeated beatings and years of control and coercion. The lawsuit was quickly settled, as you all know, within 24 hours in November of 23. But of course, it unleashed a legal tidal wave, I should say, of legal fallout. Dozens and dozens of civil lawsuits and this current federal trial that he is now sitting at all came next, right? He stopped having Wild King Nights at hotels after the Cassie lawsuit, is what Brendan testified to. One of the most damning pieces of evidence jurors saw was a notes app schedule from February 2023, a period that aligned with Jane's birthday trip to Miami. Paul testified the note had been created by KK. The note read, "Be ready or Wild King Night at her hotel." And most likely Wild King Day continued at hotel. Paul said the entry referred to Combs and Jane, the same woman who, of course, you all know, previously testified under oath, that told jurors that Combs had given her the impression there would be no hotel nights on that trip. That's important to remember. It's an important detail that she was understanding that there wasn't going to be, but there was anyways, and he was already planning it. Paul explained in detail how he and the assistant team would prepare a room for one of Combs's nights. There was a shared checklist among assistants for what was needed, and Paul said he followed it closely. Now, I'm going to read you what they would do, and then I'm going to circle back to this because we need to talk about something. He would ensure the room had baby oil, alcohol, small toiletries, extra sheets, and towels. Now, there's more, and before I get into that, there is a share for when setting up for these Wild King Nights, these freak-offs, these hotel nights, whatever term you want to call it for him, all right? These parties, these events, right? There was a shared checklist amongst assistants, right? This ties this type of personal stuff, again, back to Combs's enterprise and his employees. That's what it's tying back to. That is one of the whole large pieces of this entire thing. And we've really seen in the last week or so, seen this happening quite a bit, where they're really starting to build up the walls in that RICO case, in that RICO charge, and getting some really damning evidence in there. And this was just another piece of it. Now, going back to what we were talking about, sometimes Brendan Paul obtained supplies directly from Combs's property managers. Other times he paid out of pocket and was later reimbursed by Combs's financial staff. On at least one occasion, he said he gave Combs $5,000 in cash before one of these nights, with the money coming from his security team. He also testified that another assistant once told him they left a cash envelope at a hotel front desk ahead of Combs's arrival. Paul added that Combs would sometimes FaceTime him or send audio messages during the events, issuing instructions or requests. One of the more visual moments came when the jury was shown a photo of sex shop outfits that Paul had sent to Combs. Paul testified that he was shopping for the items at Combs's request while Combs was with James, but said that Diddy never replied after receiving the photo. So Paul testified that he was responsible for cleaning up after 3 or 4 Wild King Nights. The rooms, he said, were typically in disarray. He would wear gloves during cleanup for sanitary reasons, obviously, right? Collect the used towels and sheets and throw out empty bottles of liquor and baby oil. At least one occasion, he saw a white powder residue he believed was substance related. The jury also saw a photo Paul had sent to Combs' travel manager showing a hotel room, sheets covering furniture. Paul said he sent it to warn her that there might be damage charges coming. Now, as Brendan Paul's testimony began to head towards conclusion on Friday, we're still on Friday, right? Jurors were shown a selfie taken aboard a private jet on March 25th, 2024, just moments before the arrest that ultimately severed Brendan Paul's ties with Sean Diddy Combs for good. In the photo, Sean Combs, his former chief of staff, Christina Coram, and Paul himself were appeared relaxed, ready to depart from Miami Opelika Executive Airport en route to the Bahamas for what Paul called or described as a vacation with Combs's family. But the trip never happened. Just before takeoff, as you all know, airport authorities arrested Paul for possession. And after the substance was found, it was in the same bag he had testified earlier was used to carry items while sweeping Combs's room. Right? Asked directly in court whether he had told law enforcement that the substance wasn't his, Paul gave one word answer that underscored the loyalty dynamics in his circle. He just answered with one word: loyalty. He went on to say that the charges were later dropped and added, because I have a really good lawyer. Paul said that he has since completed more than 20 substance education classes and participated in random substance testing as part of his post-arrest rehabilitation. After that revelation, defense attorney Brian Steele began cross, which obviously signals a new phrase in the testimony, one likely aimed at undermining Paul's credibility and motivations for cooperating with the government. Now, one thing that I want to say real quick on this whole thing is that when we heard about Paul's arrest, we heard that he was his substance mule, right? And it sounds like that's not really quite the case. Maybe a mule, as in he was the person who was carrying it for him in his bag, but he wasn't like the dealer or the supplier, which is kind of what was originally implied. It sounds like he was just an assistant who got caught with Combs' stash in his stuff. So I kind of want to make sure that we clarify that, because it sounds like this was not something that he did like himself. Like he didn't go out and get it and supply it like he was a dealer. It sounded like he was just doing his job, an illegal part of his job, but you get what I'm saying. So during the final phase of cross-examination, Brian Steele attempted to paint Brennan as a young man who had benefited greatly from working with Sean Diddy Combs, someone who might have had a reason to exaggerate or shift blame out of lingering loyalty, embarrassment, or possibly even gratitude. Brian Steele asked Brennan Paul point blank, "Would you work for a criminal?" Absolutely not. He pressed further, asking if Paul felt indebted to Combs for the experiences and access he gained through the job. Paul slightly hesitant replied, "I guess, what do you mean by indebted?" Steele clarified, asking whether Paul had learned a lot from Combs. Paul confirmed that he had. Then came the question of how Paul felt about the experience overall. "Do you have good experiences working for Mr. Combs?" For the most part. With that, Brian Steele concluded his cross-examination and redirect happened. On redirect, this was taken over by Assistant U.S. Attorney Christina Slavic. She wanted to clarify Brennan Paul's perceptions of the infamous Wild King Nights, freak-offs, hotel nights, events, saying, "What did you believe was taking place during those nights?" "There was sex happening and partying." However, he clarified that while he was often the one preparing the rooms and cleaning them afterwards, he was not physically present during the actual events. As such, he could not confirm if anything illegal or non-consensual happened behind closed doors. Then came the final question, the one that got to the heart of Paul's personal struggle with the man who he once worked with and claimed so much loyalty for. "Sitting here today, how do you feel about Mr. Combs?" "It's complicated." And with that, he was excused from the witness stand. Now, that ends Friday. Guys, that ends Friday. So we are on schedule. That was 18 minutes of this, right? So we will be done at about the same time it takes us to do a normal episode, and you guys are getting 2 days in one. So again, I'm sorry about this. Tomorrow we'll have a normal episode like we always do. So today was a pretty big day. If you're coming in late, a couple things to say real quick before we get into the stuff today, in case you missed it earlier of what kind of happened today, because there was some big stuff we'll talk about on the front end. First thing I'll say, if you came in late, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, and you want to catch this is on my Sean Diddy Combs playlist on YouTube. You can go back, watch it from the very beginning. All of these are on that list. So if you did miss something and you want to go back and hear it, like what are they talking about? What did I miss? That's how you can always do it. And of course, if you go to YouTube, please do me a solid and hit that follow button. And if you are coming in here, staying your first time, you're not a follower, please consider doing that, because that is something free that helps out my platform that you can do. Now, let's get into today. So originally, the defense was supposed to call 3 witnesses once closing arguments happen, because closing arguments from prosecution are going to probably happen tomorrow. That's kind of what we're anticipating. It'll happen tomorrow. That means it's the defense's turn to call witnesses. And originally they had at least 3 people slated to call for the defense, in defense, obviously, of Sean Diddy Combs. But today they kind of threw everyone for a loop when they said, we're not going to be calling any witnesses. We're not going to be calling any witnesses. We're going to instead focus on material evidence. So there are going to be no witnesses on Sean Combs's behalf. I don't know what kind of play this is. I knew they were supposed to have experts in there, a few other things. I don't know what the ultimate play is here. If I was Diddy, I would be kind of taken aback by my team. Granted, he's got a lot of input on it, but I don't think I'd be too happy with that decision. I don't think that this is a good idea. One of my mods / lawyers, is a friend who's a lawyer here, says too, I've seen this before. It's a strategic mistake. I agree. It's a big deal. Now, that being said, somebody asked a question. I'll go ahead and address this too. Are we going to know his sentence verdict this week? You will not know his sentence this week, but it is very possible that we know a verdict this week. If everything rests by Wednesday or Thursday, which they're expecting to rest on Thursday, defenses, jury begins deliberation. You could very well have a verdict between Thursday and Friday. So if all goes according to plan, you absolutely could, although very likely it'll go into next week unless they all feel like it's cut and dry. So, yeah. So today, the jury saw raw, unfiltered text messages between Combs and Cassie from 2017. Real quick, going back to my thing. Actually, we're almost sorry. We're almost. This is still Friday. My notes are a little weird here. Actually, I don't know if this is or not. I'm just going to read you this part. I don't know if it's from this last week or this week, but the jury saw some unfiltered text messages between Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura from 2017. This is coming in. So I think this is from this week, and I just kind of got my notes out of order. So sorry about that. It starts in March of that year. Diddy had sent Cassie a hotel room number and told her to call him. What happened after that isn't spelled out, but you can kind of read between the lines. A few hours later, Cassie texted him, WTF, really? I think it'll always be black and white. You threw out all of my shit. Then it escalates. Cassie tells him, you beat my head in. But then corrects it and another message says, beat. Diddy's response, you're crazy. Let's stop talking. You dead wrong. Flipping on me for what? Cassie shoots back. Ain't flipping. I can come back so we can talk, but you know I fight. And Diddy tries to play the victim. So we're clear this time. We're taking a break. This is really how you want to leave this? Cassie shoots back. No, I don't want to be beat down for being defiant or ever. You treat me and make me feel like I don't matter. Diddy says, you started all of this. Fucking audacity. But Cassie isn't backing down at this point anymore, guys. He says, I guess I'm not down with abuse. It doesn't make sense to me. You hit me in my head 2 good times. It didn't make me feel good. I know I'm not crazy. And Diddy goes, I'm hurt. You have disrespected so much in the last 12 months. She goes, wow. She claps back hard. Wow. You think you're talking to one of your little fuck boys? They can have you with that shit. I'm not taking no more. Then in one of the most gut-wrenching moments, she asks her if she's ever gotten numbers. He asks her at this point, well, this is all going on. Have you ever gotten numbers for female escorts? Let that sit in for a second. He texts him a few days later saying, on March 18th, saying, you're at a point in your life where you want to party and have a good time. I have to focus or I'll never become anything. He then lays it out and says she had fun in Miami, but she realized why. I opened the door to that being my sole purpose in seeing you. I knew if I said no to it in New York, it would have been a problem. Then comes a line that a jury won't forget. You treat me like a hooker, to be honest. You always want to call one, and you have one. This hooker has been here for 10 years. Did he just respond with one word? Wow. Please don't play the victim. This is what Cassie said. Please don't play the victim. If you can go to our last messages, that's all you wanted, and that's why I was upset. I love our FOs when we both want it. Then in May, which is free cost, by the way. Then in May, it gets a little bit darker. On May 2nd, 2017, she texts Diddy again. You fucked up. You dragged me down the hall by my hair. I'm 30 years old. This isn't play anymore. I was scared of your rage. I talk out of line sometimes, and I do apologize, but that doesn't mean I don't love you, and your love shouldn't equate to what you do for me. Then she brings up someone named Boris, who's possibly security or staff. Boris had to tackle you, Puff. That's not love. That's possession. I have bleeding cuts. He then flips the script again, tells her that she's ungrateful for a night that he planned just for her. He tells her, I'm not going to let someone shit on me when all I've done is be nice. Any other woman in the world would have been so happy. You're whack for not keeping it real. And when I and everyone knows you were acting like a bitch. He then tells her to talk to her people. They'll tell you or they won't because all they do is suck you, KK won't talk. Talk to her. KK, by the way, you guys all know who it is. I'm sure you don't want to get involved. Okay. So then KK reaches out. Cassie actually reaches out to KK and says this to her. I'm sure you don't want to get involved, but he said I was an asshole, which I owned up to. But no one deserves being dragged by their hair. I locked the door for my safety. Guys, these aren't just angry arguments. These are admissions, even on Diddy's end, of domestic violence, emotional abuse, and control. In Diddy's own words, in Cassie's own desperate texts. And now a federal jury is seeing every single one of these, right? This is him saying in his text messages, confirmed text messages, that, yeah, I did this, not denying any of it. Her talking, her confronting him about it, him not denying any of it. It's all there. It's all there. Homeland Security Special Agent was the next person to take the stand. He was the one who I believe showed all this. I think it's like I said, I think I got my notes out of order. He took the stand to walk the jury through a detailed summary chart compiled by prosecutors, which outlines 44 separate events tied to Combs and one of his accusers, Jane, spanning from May of 21 to August of 24. Joseph Cerciello wasn't directly involved in the investigation. His role was to just verify that the chart matched the underlying records. Thousands of pages of text, financial documents, hotel receipts, and phone data. Jane was the only woman on the chart. Cerciello, I'm just going to, what's his first name again? Joseph. I'm just calling him Joseph because I can't say this last name and I don't want to butcher it. Joseph testified, or the agent, I should say, testified that Jane was the only woman named in the entire chart. Before Cassie's lawsuit, the documented locations were almost exclusively hotels. Of course, as you all know, after the lawsuit, and especially after the hotel footage was aired, that pattern changed. There were no more hotels. They just stopped. The agent said 3 of the charted events happened after May 19th, 2024. Oh, that's my birthday. The date Diddy posted his now infamous apology video just 2 days after CNN aired that footage of him grabbing, kicking, and dragging Cassie in a hotel hallway. And if you all watched that footage, if you didn't, you should go watch it. But if you watched it, he's sorry he got caught. And it's very clear. Like, he doesn't own up to anything. He doesn't take responsibility for anything. He makes this public apology video for just that, for the public. For the public. It wasn't for us. Well, if you haven't watched it, I would encourage you to Google it. Seriously. Anyways, the jury saw one key example from December of 21 where Jane flew to Miami, and so did an entertainer named Sly. We've talked about Sly before. The two coordinated over text. Hotel records show the St. Regis Bal Harbor showed $6,000 in damages to the room following that visit. Now, this is going to be graphic and gross, guys. I'm just warning you. Next part's graphic and gross. I can't help you on this, okay? We're just gonna say what it is. In January 2023, Diddy stayed at a Los Angeles hotel using the alias Joseph Chavez. That room later incurred $3,750 in charges for damaged furniture, but that wasn't the only thing. According to the hotel report, it said this: bodily fluid stained on the wood floors across the room and furniture. Bodily fluid stained on the wood floor across the room and furniture. Told you. Gross. Gross. It's disgusting. All right. Now, let that sink in for a minute. Let's get past that. Let's all get through it. Somebody said $6,000 in damages. Just imagine. There was one bill he had at one point where he had over $47,000 in damages at a place in New York. So yeah, he does damages for sure. So yeah. Moving on, text messages showed Diddy instructing Jane to send $1,100 to an escort service, which was Cowboys for Angels. This was to cover flights and an overnight rate. Again, this was not a one-time thing. The jury saw documentation of ongoing arrangements like this, tracked in meticulous detail. Then, on April 23, Diddy and Jane stayed at the London Hotel in LA. Records show another entertainer, escort, joined them, and after checkout, Diddy was charged $1,800 for additional room damages. The security report read this: the room towels appeared to be soaked in baby oil. Baby oil is in the carpet as well. The jury was then shown a note from Fahim Muhammad, who is Diddy's head of security, dated April 25th, 24. It read 5,000 PD personal loan or personal London. Muhammad apparently tracked Diddy's personal cash reimbursement with some of which was directly tied to Jane. The jury also had a text from June 18th of 24, where his assistant Jonathan Perez messaged Fahim Muhammad saying, "We need $600. PD is about to go to Jane's house." Later, Perez informed both Muhammad and Christina Karam that he and Diddy were en route to Jane's house the next day. KK texted saying, "Pick up PD ASAP," and Perez replied asking for more cash. Then on June 20th, he texted again, "Need $3,500 cash ASAP for his guest. I'm going to take it to her." This is all part of the government's timeline. It shows Jane wasn't just being trafficked through private jet and luxury hotels. She was also being financed and managed by his inner circle in real time. Well, let's read this again because this is important. Okay, what we're seeing with this in this timeline, the government showing is that Jane was being trafficked, but not just through private jets and luxury hotels, but she was being financed and managed by Combs, because all of these things that we're accounting for are for that. They all center around that. Right? Now, the agent, this was still all Friday. This was all Friday still. We haven't gotten to Monday yet. So he returns Monday, okay, today. Defense, this is what happened on Friday. Mark Agnifilo told the court they expect to rest Tuesday or Wednesday. That's the defense, meaning that we could have everything wrapped up by tomorrow, quite possibly. Somebody's saying we don't know what's been said inside the courtroom. All of this has been said inside the courtroom. This is being taken verbatim. It depends on how quickly they finish introducing a small batch of exhibits into evidence, which is what they're trying to do. The judge said closing arguments could begin Thursday if everything stays on track. But let's be clear, guys, with the kinds of receipts that are now being read into the record, bodily fluids, like $3,600 in bodily fluid damage, baby oil escort services, ATM withdrawals, constant getting cash, damaged hotel suites. These aren't just allegations anymore, guys. These are facts with receipts, literal receipts. They're seeing infrastructure. They're seeing a system, a lifestyle, and all of it with a paper trail. So now, again, real quick as we get into today, sorry, because again, this is a 2-episode in one. If you are coming in late, hit the follow button. You can catch up from the beginning of this on my Sean Diddy Combs playlist on YouTube if you want to go there. Now, before testimony resumed today, this morning, the lawyers mapped out the week ahead of. So as of everything changed from Friday. So Maureen Comey confirmed that Agent Cerciello's testimony will continue into Tuesday morning, which is tomorrow. Once he steps down, the defense is expected to wrap up by the end of the day. It was all tomorrow. Both sides will meet for a charge conference on Wednesday where they finalize instructions for the jury. And if everything stays on schedule, closing arguments will begin on Thursday. So this trial, guys, is nearly at the finish line, but not before we hear the rest of what's on the charts. So the agent, Joseph Cerciello, as Homeland Security Investigations, is back on the stand today. He's continuing his review of the prosecution's detailed evidence charge, documents built from thousands of messages, financial records, hotel logs, and digital traces. His job is to confirm that what the jury sees in those charts directly matches the raw underlying evidence and to walk them entry by entry through the infrastructure behind Combs' alleged trafficking operation. This morning picked up right where Friday left off. The things escalated fast. Once he resumed the stand, the jury was shown more than 12 minutes of sexually explicit videos, clips that are under seal and not visible to press or public, but the agent did confirm what's in them. Diddy appears in the videos. So does Jane. He testified that the clips come from 13 different segments. And I'm going to give you a fact in here that's going to blow your mind in a minute. Okay. Just to let you guys know. I'll tell y'all when that is. But he testified that the clips are from 13 different segments recorded across 5 separate months. November 21, December 21, February 22, August 22, and October 22. Now, the jury watched these clips privately using headphones as they were played in court. The footage comes from a much larger batch. A summary chart compiled by prosecutors cites dozens more explicit recordings. All right. Now listen to this. Agent Cerciello told the court, this is the part I was telling you about, told the court that approximately 50 sexually explicit videos were recorded over just 5 days. From December 17th to December 21st, 2021. Let that sink in. 5 days, 50 videos. 5 days, 50 videos. Separate, different videos. All right. Now, the chart that the agent's referencing connects those clips to Jane and other unnamed men and Combs himself. All right. The evidence isn't theoretical, guys. It's visual. It's documented. It's tied directly to the timeline prosecutors have meticulously laid out, where Jane was allegedly trafficked, coerced, and recorded under Combs' control. Now, the public might not be able to see the tapes, but the jury is seeing the tapes. And they're seeing exactly what prosecutors say Jane endured. And they're seeing it on record. They're seeing it in video, in text, in finances. Then Special Agent Cerciello walked the jury through yet another evidence chart. This one was focused on a pair of trips taken by Jane and Sean Combs in September of 23. The first trip spanned from September 17th through 19th in NYC. Travel records showed Jane flew in alongside a recurring figure in this case, which is that entertainer / escort named Sly. Hotel was the Trump International in Manhattan. The payment trail is very clear. Jane's flight and hotel were paid for with a credit card from Bad Boy Entertainment. That is Combs' company. The travel was arranged by Combs' own travel manager. Jane covered Sly's transportation, but received $5,000 from Combs' accounts manager around that time. All right. Let me kind of lay this out for those of y'all who might not be connecting these dots. Okay. Now, Jane's flight was paid for. Remember, she's allegedly being trafficked, right? It was paid for by Bad Boy Entertainment. That connects the company. Travel manager probably handles both personal and business. That's not a big deal. But Jane covered Sly's transportation and received $5,000 from Combs' account. So what that says to me, just being logical here, what that says to me is that Diddy didn't want the escorts paid under Bad Boy Entertainment. So he would cover Jane, having a reason to cover her, and then reimburse her cash for her covering it. So he was really paying it. She wasn't, but he was doing it kind of behind the scenes and like petty cash kind of a thing. You get what I'm saying? So it was still coming from the company. It was just doing it through a backdoor way, right? This is RICO. This is what we're talking about with RICO. All right. This is him hiding everything behind a structure, using a legitimate business front to run illegal criminal activities. That is what it is. Whether that's what he meant it to be doesn't matter, because that's what it is. And you're seeing this evidence, right? So let's keep going, guys. Then there was another chart covered in a second trip, September 24th through 26th in Miami. Same pattern. Jane and Sly flew round trip. Flights and hotels were again paid for with a credit card linked to Combs' travel manager. Again, putting this into that territory, right? Then Cerciello reviewed messages connected to the New York trip, highlighting a text exchange between Combs and Cowboys for Angels, the escort agency that you guys have talked about a lot. Also, I want to address this comment that Shirley said. Guarantee they didn't show a lot of clips because they had children in them with them. I don't know who all spoke in court, but it's wild. Here's what I'm going to say. Okay, you guys know that I am no Diddy apologist. The reason that the freak off videos aren't being shown to the public is to protect the people, the victims, and its identity. That's why. It has nothing to do with children. And here's the thing. If there were children found in those videos, prosecution would be very much all over it. The only thing that we have heard about people underage are coming from the civil lawsuits. And I'm not saying that those aren't real, because I believe that they are. But there's nothing in this case that has indicated any type of debauchery with children. All right. As of now, that is rumored, and it is unconfirmed. And if it was something that was part of this and there were children being trafficked, then 100% prosecution would be bringing that up. Like 1,000% prosecution would be bringing that up. They would absolutely, because the charges for that are probably greater than RICO. Just saying. Just to let you guys know. Anyways, let's keep going. So he's got the text between Cowboys for Angels, right? Combs was seen coordinating directly himself with that agency about having an escort sent to his hotel. After the visit, the Cowboys for Angels rep followed up with a reminder. He still needs to pay $600. Combs replied, LOL, he couldn't even perform. So Combs is admitting that he hired an escort for sex, that escort couldn't perform, right? And I mean, it's all there. Somebody on Instagram says, why did he do this crap in his own house? Great question. The reason for that is because if you look at all the damages and baby oil and everything else, he'd rather damage somebody else's property than his own. So, anyways, the rep then explained that the charge wasn't for performance, it was for time, because bear in mind, it's illegal in New York to hire somebody for sex, but you can hire, escorts are hired, technically, this is the workaround, are hired because you get to spend time with them. It doesn't matter whether they sleep with you or not, you're paying for that time. Now, if an arrangement comes up where you do sleep with them, then that is technically between y'all and it's not legal, right? So that again kind of is another layer to this whole thing. So, why are there no domestic violence charges? Because Danica, those are domestic violence charges are not a federal thing. That would be local. That would have to be handled by the respective states or municipalities in the respective states. That would not be a federal thing. The rep explained that the charge was for performance. It was for time. Combs texted back that he should be nice to the man and added that he's a long-time customer. The jury also saw a text between Jane and Sly planning his arrival at the same hotel, as well as messages involving Brendan Paul, who we talked to earlier on Friday, arranging IV. I didn't talk to, they talked to, arranging IV drips for 3 people during that stay. Jurors have now, at this point, seen over 40 minutes of sexually explicit video footage tied to Combs and James. The courtroom has been silent during the playback. Jurors have used headphones, and while most seem to be paying close attention, 2 jurors were seen with their eyes closed at certain moments. The videos that were shown today were pulled from November 21, December 21, February 22, August 22, and October 22, but Agent Cerciello told the jury that the cache included about 50 explicit recordings that, again, were captured over a 5-day period, right? The jury then saw more messages between Sean Combs and his former chief of staff, Christina Coram, from late September of 23. Where the hell, by the way, is Christina Coram in all of this? She had a front row seat to all of this. I was for sure we'd see her. Where the hell is Christina Coram? Can anybody answer that question for me? Where the hell is she? Why have we not seen her? Why have we not heard of her? Is she alive? Is she dead? Do we know? Does she have immunity? Is she is his version of Ghislaine Maxwell. So where the hell is she? Guys, that makes me wonder if she was one of the witnesses, that the one that they couldn't compel to testify no matter what, the one that didn't show up, but I doubt it. I don't know. Where is she though? Let's do some digging into that. Somebody, she lives in Westwood in Los Angeles. If anybody's in Westwood in Los Angeles and you see her out, let's get put your camera up. Ask her, like, why the hell, where are you in all of this? You knew what was going on. Anyway, whatever. But they saw more messages between him and KK from late September of 23, and it wasn't just about logistics, guys. In this one, they were orchestration. He instructed KK to keep a woman named Chelsea at one Miami hotel while booking a separate hotel suite at a different location for him and Jane. Right? He told KK that Chelsea would move into his Miami residence after Jane left the hotel. The evidence chart also included a flight booked by Combs' travel manager taking Jane from Miami to LA. So he's got Chelsea in one hotel saying that she's going to move into his house as soon as Jane gets the hell out of there. All right? Like as soon as she leaves, heads back to LA, this woman's moving to the Miami mansion. All right, so then he walked the jury through records from November 8th of 2010, 8th through 10th of 2021. Messages paint a grimly familiar picture, one that we've heard before, the same cast of characters, the same machinery in motion. Combs texts James, asking if she wants to see him and an entertainer named Paul. He then texted Paul directly, let me know when you're close. Already had it planned out, right? At the same time, Jane was texting with Sly, trying to get him from Atlanta to LA. Combs handled logistics through his travel manager, booking Sly's flight and hotel, and Jane forwarded the itinerary straight to Sly. Then came, again, the cash movement. Combs requested $5,000 in cash from KK. KK messaged back that the baby oil had been dropped off. At the same time, Jane sent Sly a cash app payment, and a large sum of cash was then deposited into one of Paul's accounts. Agent Cerciello confirmed that several explicit videos were recorded during those exact dates. Then, more messages from November 14th of 21 were shown to the jury where KK again was acting on behalf of Combs. Sorry, I pulled away from that a little bit. Acting on behalf of Combs. Booked a Los Angeles hotel suite for him and Jane, for Combs and James. She texted him when an assistant was at the property setting up the room. Later, she called up and said, hotel called, Paul coming up. Paul is more than an entertainer, more than an escort, according to testimony and evidence. He's someone that Combs and Jane um, frequently paid to sleep with Jane during these orchestrated, again, hotel nights, free cost, Wild King nights, pick your favorite term for it, right? But on the books, Paul also worked with Combs as a trainer, which gives him a cover, right? All right, let's try. Let's in case you missed that, okay? Because that's kind of one of those light bulb moments, right? They would pay for Paul to come as an escort, as an entertainer, and sleep with Jane. That he paid him also to be a personal trainer. Again, this is one of those big things. Like, this is the guy that you're employed as a personal trainer. Personal trainer is a front. Being a personal trainer, I'm not saying he didn't do any personal training, but it's a front. It's very clearly a front because he was getting large sums deposited in his account to sleep with her, right? I'm saying. Anyways, it's a good cover. What's being revealed to the jury isn't just a pattern of abuse. It's logistically managed. It's a logistically managed enterprise, one that's involving multiple women, escort agencies, cash handlers, travel agents, and a trusted inner circle. This was a well-oiled machine. He would text and say, "I need 5,000 cash for this person." It was done. They paid it beyond the record. He would book flights through Combs' enterprise, through Bad Boy Entertainment, whatever it was, one of the companies, and they would all get together, right? And it was all done consistently with that same pattern. All right. It's all in writing, guys. Every bit of it, all of it. Then the jury was walked through records from January of 2023, another hotel night in LA involving Jane and Combs and 3 male entertainers. Combs sent Jane a voice message. "Hey, let me know right now if I should book debauchery for 9 o'clock. Yes or no?" She goes, "Yeah, it's a thumbs up." Then she asked Combs for money to buy some new clothes. Combs replied with another audio message saying, "Sent you $15,000, baby girl." Flight records confirmed all 3 entertainers flew in. One was scheduled through Cowboys for Angels. Jane paid the agency $1,100 via Cash App and texted Combs, "This is proof of payment." The government says this is one of many prearranged encounters Combs orchestrated involving Jane and outside men. Jane has already testified that that these hotel nights, or that Jane has testified that they were called hotel nights. Others in his circle called them Wild King nights, and Cassie Ventura called them freak-offs. The jury then saw messages from October 23 before Cassie's lawsuit became public. And this is very interesting, okay? Jane testified that she and Combs agreed he'd stop using substances for 30 days, but he wanted to have one final sobriety party. We've heard about the sobriety party, right? This was confirmed on the final. This is Agent Cerciello confirmed this is the final entry on the government's timeline before Ventura's lawsuit was filed. In the days leading up to that night, Jane texted Combs, "I don't want to be mistreated. I don't feel like performing loveless cold sex." Despite that, record shows she went to his home in Beverly Hills the next day. Message then showed KK coordinating with Brendan Paul and other staff to prepare a hotel room. She says that she doesn't want to do it, but they're already preparing it anyways. Combs himself is texting with an escort from Cowboys for Angels about meeting at the hotel. A few hours later, he sent the hotel details to entertainer Paul, who's also the personal trainer. Bank records showed $3,000 was deposited into Paul's account shortly thereafter. In the days following the encounter, Jane texted him again, saying, "I feel violated and manipulated." She asked him to put money in her account. Cerciello confirmed the messages, the flight records, the payments, and the hotel arrangements, all of which is now, of course, evidence. During cross, defense attorney Tini Garagos walked the jury through September 2023 invoice from Combs' travel management company. The invoice detailed travel expenses, including flights for Jane and Sly for their trip to New York City. Garagos pointed out that the invoice read various expenses for Combs. It did not list any of Combs' companies or corporate entities, and only Combs personally. All right. That's the only one, is that one trip. Back on redirect, Special Agent Cerciello confirmed that many of the document incidents in the government summary chart happened before April 2023, the month that Combs began paying rent on Jane's new home. Cerciello also told the jury that the summary chart is not exhaustive. There were likely other meetings or encounters between Janes and Combs that weren't included. Only those with verifiable documentation made it into the chart. During cross, Tini Garagos focused on the time frame of the November 8th through 10th, 2021, the same time period prosecutors had previously introduced in their summary chart. Garagos pointed out that some messages sent by Jane during that time were not included in the government's chart. In one exchange, after Combs texted Jane asking if she wanted to see him and another entertainer named Paul, Jane responded that she was horny. Combs asked what she wanted to do, telling her to be explicit. Jane then texted back descriptions of certain activity she wanted to engage in with both Combs and Paul, which is according to the messages shown in court. Then additional texts were showed Jane messaging Sly, telling him she wanted to see him as well. After those messages, Garagos had the jury review another sexually explicit video recorded on November 10th, the same date referenced in the earlier exchange. She then played additional clips from November and December of 21. Earlier that day, prosecutors had already shown over 12 minutes of similar footage and included content from November 10th. The jury also reviewed messages between Jay and Sly regarding 2 separate encounters in December of 21. In those messages, Jane asked Sly to join her and Combs. After one encounter, Jane texted Sly, "So happy you are such a sweetheart. Thank you for making me feel beautiful." In another message, she wrote, "Getting flashbacks," followed by a drooling emoji. Then from there, guys, it is over. Court adjourns for the day. Special Agent Cerciello will be returning tomorrow and continued with cross-examined by the defense. That's what we got, guys. So that was 2 and 1, right? We did 2 and 1 for this. Again, if you came in late, I'll say it again. If you came in late, this is on the Sean Diddy Combs playlist on my YouTube. You can go back and watch it from the very beginning. Might be on Facebook too, actually, now that I say that. But guys, this stuff here, this is before we've heard everything that kind of like people's own personal testimony, what they experienced, whether it was employees, whether it was romantic partners, no matter who it was, whatever their experience was with him. We've heard that, right? And we're like, okay, this proves RICO. This proves this part of it. This proves trafficking. Now you're seeing the black and white, undisputable receipts. Payments to escorts. Every one of these events ran like a well-oiled machine, no pun intended, right? That being said, that's what we have for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with a normal episode. Probably not as long. But you can expect that we're getting to the end of this. We could have a verdict this week. I don't think that that's likely, but it is definitely possible. I think we're probably going into next week for it. But we could definitely have a verdict this week. People are asking, I saw this in a few different people ask on YouTube and TikTok, and maybe even on Insta, what do I think is going to happen? I think he's going to be found guilty. I think that then there will then be an appeal filed. I don't know how that's going to go, but I think he's going to be found guilty. I think that what you have coming in now with the black and white receipts, it's too much to ignore with everything else that's there with the videos. It goes well beyond domestic violence at that point, right? It goes well beyond assault. That said, again, I'm not against pandering for followers. So if you're new here, please consider hitting that follow button if you like what you heard, because we are covering this. And bear in mind that we have this happening, and then about a month, we have the Koberger trial, which we will be covering the same way we're covering this, except we'll have more information because we can actually watch that one. So again, make sure to follow with that. Bobby, oh my God, Bobby, you said it perfectly. It's not, I'm going to pin this, what you said. Okay, I'm going to read it to y'all. It's not what he did, it's how he did it. So eloquently put, and 100%. I couldn't put it better myself. Perfect. I might steal that from you, Bobby. It's not what he did, it's how he did it. Anyways, that, guys. I'm gonna do some research into KK and find out what the hell's going on with her. But nevertheless, I don't know if I'm gonna find anything out. I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for following TikTok. Thank you all for getting to almost 60,000 likes. You guys don't go anywhere because you know I'll talk to y'all after we do this. And for everybody else, Insta, Facebook, YouTube, love you all. See you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.